The chandelier crashed to the marble floor with a symphony of shattering crystal, sending shards dancing across the pristine white surface like ice on a frozen lake. Olivia Bennet ducked behind the antique sideboard, her cleaning cloth still, clutched in her trembling hand. "That's it, Alexis, we're done," bellowed the voice of her employer, 34-year-old tech billionaire Ethan West. His normally composed demeanor had transformed into something thunderous, his handsome face contorted with rage. "You can't break up with me," shrieked the willowy blonde in the red cocktail dress, her mascara running in inky rivers down her perfectly contoured cheeks. "Do you know how many Instagram followers I have?" Olivia winced as Alexis hurled a Fabergé egg worth more than a suburban house across the penthouse living room. She'd been working as Ethan's housekeeper for 3 years, and this was the 4th spectacular breakup she'd witnessed. She adjusted her simple uniform and waited for the storm to pass, mentally calculating how many hours it would take to restore order to the chaos. "I know exactly how many followers you have," Ethan replied, his voice suddenly cold and controlled. "I also know about the offshore account you've been funneling my money into. My security team flagged the transfers yesterday." Alexis's perfect pout transformed into an ugly snarl. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Just because you invented some stupid app that made you billions? The app that you used to buy that Birkin bag and the Ferrari parked downstairs?" "Yes, I think I am," Ethan replied, straightening his custom Tom Ford suit. "Jeffrey will escort you out. You can keep the jewelry." On cue, the stone-faced head of security appeared at the elevator doors. Alexis's tantrum escalated as she was gently but firmly guided toward the exit, her threats and insults echoing off the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the Manhattan skyline. When the penthouse finally fell silent, Olivia emerged from her hiding place and began picking up the larger pieces of the shattered chandelier. "Leave it, Olivia. I'll call the interior designer." "We needed a change anyway," Ethan said wearily, collapsing onto his white leather sofa. "If I may, Mr. West, this is the 3rd chandelier this year," Olivia reminded him gently, tucking a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear. At 32, she had the quiet confidence of someone who knew her worth, even if her bank account didn't reflect it. Ethan looked at her as if truly seeing her for the first time. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, catching the amber flecks in her hazel eyes. "You've been here for all of them, haven't you?" he realized. "I've been here for Cassandra, who stole your vintage watch collection. For Madison, who tried to sell your startup's trade secrets to your competitors. And for Jennifer, who was simultaneously dating your CFO," Olivia recounted matter-of-factly. A reluctant smile tugged at the corner of Ethan's mouth. "You keep track?" "It's hard not to notice when someone's stealing from the person who signs my paychecks," she replied with a shrug. "Besides, the drama is better than anything on Netflix." The unexpected comment startled a genuine laugh from Ethan, a sound Olivia realized she'd rarely heard in the palatial penthouse that seemed more like a glass museum than a home. "I have terrible taste in women, don't I?" he admitted, loosening his tie. "With all due respect, Mr. West, you have excellent taste in art, architecture, and technology investments. Your judgment only seems to falter when it comes to partners, who arrive with more Louis Vuitton luggage than personal integrity." Ethan stared at her, momentarily stunned by her frankness, before erupting into laughter again. "Has anyone ever told you that you have a remarkable way with words, Olivia? My literature degree occasionally comes in handy when I'm not cleaning up after breakup hurricanes," she quipped, then immediately worried she'd overstepped. But Ethan's expression had shifted from amusement to curiosity. "Literature? From where?" "Columbia. Full scholarship," she answered, suddenly self-conscious as she continued collecting crystal fragments. "So why are you—" He gestured around the penthouse. "Picking up pieces of chandelier instead of teaching Austin to apathetic undergrads?" Olivia finished for him. "My mother got sick during my PhD program. Medical bills piled up. This job pays better than adjunct teaching, has excellent benefits, and..." She gestured to the panoramic view of Central Park. The scenery isn't bad. A comfortable silence fell between them as Ethan processed this new information about the woman who had moved quietly through his home for years. "I've never asked about your life," he realized aloud, a hint of shame coloring his voice. "You've been busy," Olivia replied diplomatically, standing to dispose of the crystal shards. "Too busy chasing the wrong things, apparently," Ethan murmured, more to himself than to her. He watched as she efficiently moved through the space, restoring order with practiced hands. "Mr. West?" she said suddenly. "Yes?" "Your mother called this morning. She wanted to remind you about your father's retirement dinner next Saturday," Ethan groaned, running a hand through his dark hair. "I completely forgot, and now I don't have a date, which means my mother will try to set me up with the daughter of one of their country club friends." Olivia hesitated, then offered, "You could always go alone. It might be refreshing." Their eyes met across the debris-strewn room, and something indefinable passed between them, a moment of genuine connection that caught them both by surprise. Then Ethan's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. "It's the board. I have to take this," he said, standing abruptly. "Thank you, Olivia, for everything." As he walked to his home office, Olivia returned to her cleaning, unaware that their carefully maintained employer-employee relationship had just shifted, like tectonic plates before an earthquake. Imperceptible on the surface, but changing everything underneath. "You want me to what?" Olivia nearly dropped the stack of freshly laundered Egyptian cotton sheets she was carrying through the East Wing hallway. Ethan West stood before her in his running clothes, having just returned from his morning jog around Central Park. Despite the sweat darkening his technical fabric t-shirt, he somehow managed to look like he'd stepped out of a fitness magazine advertisement. "Come to my father's retirement dinner," he repeated, as if asking her to pass the salt, rather than proposing something that would upend their carefully defined professional relationship. "As my guest, not as staff." Olivia blinked rapidly. "Mr. West, I appreciate the offer, but—" "Ethan," he corrected. "After 3 years of witnessing my romantic disasters, I think we're well past Mr. West." "Ethan," she tried, the name feeling foreign on her tongue. "I don't think it's appropriate. I'm your employee. You're also the only woman I know who hasn't tried to access my bank accounts or sell stories about me to the tabloids," he pointed out with a wry smile. "Consider it hazard pay for surviving Alexis's chandelier apocalypse." A reluctant laugh escaped Olivia's lips. "I'm pretty sure that was covered in my last Christmas bonus." "Please?" Ethan's voice softened, and for the first time, Olivia saw vulnerability beneath the billionaire facade. "It's just one evening. My parents are retiring to Tuscany, and I'd like to actually enjoy their party instead of fending off my mother's matchmaking attempts, or worrying about whether my date is secretly recording our conversations for a tell-all podcast." Olivia shifted the sheets in her arms, buying time to think. What would I even wear to something like that? The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them. It sounded like she was considering his ludicrous proposition. Ethan's eyes lit up, sensing weakness in her defenses. "Whatever you want. I mean that. No expectations. Your mother will assume I'm your girlfriend," Olivia pointed out pragmatically. "Let her." Ethan shrugged. "It'll keep her off my back for at least one evening." A thought seemed to strike him. "Unless you're seeing someone? I've never asked about your personal life either." "No," Olivia admitted. "Between this job, visiting my mother at the care facility, and my online literature seminars, there isn't much time for dating." "You teach online?" "Just one class per semester. 19th century women writers." She shifted uncomfortably under his interested gaze. "It keeps my academic credentials current, for when I eventually return to teaching, full-time." "You're remarkable, Olivia Bennett," Ethan said with such genuine admiration that she felt a traitorous warmth bloom in her chest. I'm just practical, she countered, desperate to restore their normal dynamic. And practically speaking, attending. Your father's retirement party with you is a terrible idea. I'll double your salary, Ethan offered suddenly. Olivia's jaw dropped. That's inappropriate. Not as your date, he clarified quickly. As my employee. Permanently. You've been running this household flawlessly for 3 years without a significant raise. It's overdue regardless of whether you come to the party. Are you trying to bribe me or give me a raise? She asked suspiciously. Both? Ethan admitted with a disarming grin. Is it working? Before Olivia could respond, the penthouse intercom buzzed. Mr. West, your 10 o'clock appointment is here. Ms. Rebecca Sterling from Sterling Financial, announced Jeffrey's professional voice. Ethan checked his watch and grimaced. I need to shower. Tell her I'll be right there. As he turned to leave, Olivia called after him. I haven't said yes. You haven't said no either, he replied over his shoulder, disappearing into his suite with a confidence that both irritated and amused her. 3 hours later, Olivia was organizing Ethan's extensive walk-in closet when she overheard voices from his home office. The merger, numbers look exceptional, Ethan. The board is thrilled. The voice was female, smooth as aged whiskey and just as intoxicating. It's been a grueling 6 months, but worth it. Ethan's voice carried a note of pride. We should celebrate. Dinner at Per Se? I've already made a reservation. Olivia didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the closet door was ajar, and sound carried easily in the marble-floored penthouse. She busied herself with color-coordinating his tie collection, trying to ignore the pang of something uncomfortable in her stomach. That's thoughtful, Rebecca, but I'll have to take a rain check. I'm swamped this week. All work and no play. Makes Ethan a dull billionaire, the woman teased. What about this weekend? I've heard you're suddenly single again. News travels fast, Ethan replied dryly. In our circles, at the speed of light. So, how about it? Just dinner between colleagues. The pause was pregnant with implication, and Olivia found herself holding her breath. I appreciate the offer, Ethan said finally, but I'm taking someone to my father's retirement dinner on Saturday. Oh, that was fast, even for you. Rebecca's voice had cooled several degrees. It's not like that, Ethan replied. She's different. Olivia nearly knocked over a rack of designer suits. She hadn't actually agreed to go. Different how? Rebecca pressed. She sees me, not West Tech, not the penthouse or the private jet. Just me. The vulnerability in his voice made Olivia's heart skip. She'd never heard him speak that way about any of his glamorous girlfriends. Sounds serious, Rebecca observed, a hint of disappointment evident. It's complicated, Ethan hedged. It always is with the good ones, Rebecca sighed. Well, if it doesn't work out, you know where to find me. When Olivia heard the office door close, she quickly resumed her task, pretending she hadn't been listening. A few minutes later, Ethan appeared in the closet doorway. Olivia? I didn't know you were in here. Just organizing, she replied, perhaps too brightly. Your winter sweaters were mixed in with your summer linens. A fashion crisis indeed, he joked, but his eyes were searching her face. How much did you hear? Hear what? She replied innocently. Rebecca, the conversation. I try not to eavesdrop on your business meetings, Mr. Ethan, she corrected herself. But you did hear something, he persisted. Olivia sighed, abandoning the pretense. You told her you're taking someone to your father's retirement dinner. I haven't agreed to that. Yet, Ethan added with infuriating confidence. But you will. And why is that? Because underneath that practical, efficient exterior beats the heart of a 19th century literature lover. And we both know those novels are full of grand social events where unexpected connections are made. They're also full of cautionary, Tales about people from different social classes getting romantically involved, she countered. Who said anything about romance? Ethan raised an eyebrow. This is strictly a mutually beneficial arrangement. You get a night off from folding my socks, and I get to avoid my mother's matchmaking. And Rebecca Sterling's dinner invitation, Olivia added before she could stop herself. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face. So you did hear? Parts, Olivia admitted, feeling her cheeks warm. She sounds nice. She's a barracuda in Louboutin, Ethan replied. Brilliant with numbers, terrifying with people. Your type, then? Olivia asked, wondering immediately why she cared. My type seems to be evolving, Ethan said quietly, holding her gaze for a moment longer than was comfortable. The air between them felt suddenly charged with unspoken possibilities. Fine, Olivia heard herself say. I'll go to the party. Ethan's face lit up like a child on Christmas morning. You will? As your guest, not your date, she clarified, firmly. And the salary increase is separate from this agreement. Of course, he agreed quickly. Absolutely professional. And I'm not pretending to be your girlfriend. Understood. And I'll need Saturday afternoon off to prepare. Take the whole day, he offered magnanimously. As Olivia turned back to the closet organization, trying to calm her racing heart, Ethan added casually, By the way, what you were saying about 19th century novels and class differences. Yes? She prompted when he paused. How do those stories usually end? Olivia looked up at him, standing there in his custom suit in his cavernous closet larger than her entire first apartment, and felt the corner of her mouth tug upward. That depends on the novel, she replied. And who's writing the story? Saturday arrived with the speed of a runaway train. Olivia stood in her modest Brooklyn apartment, surrounded by the scattered remains of her wardrobe. For someone who spent her days organizing a billionaire's life, her own closet was in remarkable disarray. This is ridiculous, she muttered to her reflection. It's just a party. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Zoe, a photographer whose artistic temperament balanced Olivia's practical nature. Zoe. Did Cinderella find her dress yet? Olivia grimaced and typed back. More like Cinderella is considering calling in sick. The phone rang instantly. Don't you dare, Zoe warned without preamble. I've waited 3 years for you to have a life outside of that penthouse in your mother's care facility. It's not a date, Olivia insisted, examining a navy blue cocktail dress she'd worn to her cousin's wedding 2 years ago. It's a work obligation. Sure it is, Zoe drawled. That's why you've tried on every item of clothing you own, because you're so concerned about being professional. The West's world is different, Olivia explained, discarding the navy dress. These people can smell TJ Maxx from a mile away. Then let them smell it, Zoe said defiantly. You're not actually ashamed of being normal, are you? Of course. Not, Olivia replied automatically, though something uncomfortable squirmed in her stomach. I just don't want to embarrass Ethan. Ethan, is it? Zoe pounced on the familiar address. Not Mr. West anymore? He asked me to call him that, Olivia defended weakly. Mm-hmm. And did he ask you to wear your hair up or down tonight as well? Zoe. What? I'm just saying, billionaires don't typically invite their housekeepers to family events unless something interesting is happening. He's just avoiding his mother's matchmaking attempts, Olivia explained for what felt like the 100th time. And Rebecca Sterling from Sterling Financial. The plot thickens, Zoe exclaimed delightedly. Competition. There's no competition? Because there's no contest, Olivia said firmly, even as her mind conjured an image of the sleek, sophisticated woman whose voice had carried such confidence. I'm going as his buffer, not his date. The doorbell rang, interrupting her self-deception. That's weird, Olivia frowned. I'm not expecting anyone. Call me the minute you get home, Zoe instructed. I want every detail. Olivia ended the whine call and approached her door cautiously, checking the peephole. A uniformed delivery person stood outside with what appeared to be a large garment bag. Delivery for Olivia Bennett, the woman announced when Olivia opened the door. I didn't order anything, Olivia replied, confused. Compliments of Mr. West, the woman explained, handing over the garment bag along with a large box and a smaller package. He requested immediate delivery. After signing for the mysterious packages, Olivia closed the door and stared at them suspiciously. She unzipped the garment bag first, gasping as she revealed an emerald green gown that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Her phone buzzed with a text. Ethan, before you overthink it, this isn't a bribe or an expectation. It's a thank you for saving me from my mother and Rebecca. Wear it if you want, or don't. Your choice. Olivia bit her lip, torn between proper professional boundaries and the undeniable allure of the gown. With careful hands, she lifted it from the bag. The silk charmeuse flowed like water through her fingers, clearly custom-made by someone who charged more for a dress than her monthly rent. She opened the large box next, finding a pair of elegant heels that somehow looked both comfortable and sophisticated. The small package contained a simple emerald pendant on a delicate gold chain. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan, the jewelry was my grandmother's. Just borrowing, not giving. That would be weird, right? Despite herself, Olivia smiled at his evident overthinking, so at odds with his usual CEO confidence. She hesitated only briefly before typing back. Olivia, thank you. This is very thoughtful, but still not a date. His reply came instantly. Ethan, absolutely not. A non-date between non-romantically interested parties. Car will pick you up at 7. The West family estate in the Hamptons was exactly as overwhelming as Olivia had imagined. Floodlights illuminated the colonial architecture, making the white facade glow like a beacon against the darkening sky. A line of luxury vehicles crept along the circular driveway, depositing expensively dressed guests. Suddenly, I understand why you own 300 neckties, Olivia murmured as their town car joined the queue. Ethan, resplendent in his tuxedo, grinned. Wait until you see their winter place in Aspen. Bold of you to assume there will be future non-dates, she replied, smoothing the silk of her gown nervously. Ethan's expression softened as he took in her appearance. The emerald dress complemented her hazel eyes, and she'd styled her chestnut hair in loose waves that framed her face. You look beautiful, Olivia, he said simply. Something in his direct gaze made her chest tighten. Thank you. The dress is gorgeous. It's not the dress, he replied quietly. Before she could formulate a response, the car door opened, and they were swept into the glittering event. The grand ballroom buzzed with the energy of old money mingling with new technology. Crystal chandeliers, securely fastened, Olivia noted wryly, cast golden light over elegant table settings and elaborate floral arrangements. Ethan, darling. A regal woman in her 60s approached, her silver hair swept into an impeccable updo. You're late, as usual. Sorry, Mother, traffic, Ethan replied, accepting her air kiss. Mother, this is Olivia Bennett. Olivia, my mother, Eleanor West. Eleanor's perfectly arched eyebrows rose a fraction as she assessed Olivia. Bennett? Are you related to the Boston Bennetts? The Brooklyn Bennetts, actually, Olivia replied with a polite smile. School teachers and civil servants, mostly. Eleanor's smile remained fixed, but her eyes conveyed clear disappointment. How refreshing. And how did you two meet? Ethan and Olivia exchanged a quick glance. Through work, they said simultaneously. Olivia is a literature scholar, Ethan added quickly. She's been teaching me about 19th century novels. It wasn't exactly a lie, but Olivia had to suppress a smile at the creative omission. Really? Eleanor perked up slightly. I've always been fond of Austin myself. Mrs. West has excellent taste, Olivia replied genuinely. Austin's social commentary remains remarkably relevant. Indeed, Eleanor nodded approvingly. Ethan, you didn't mention Olivia was so well educated. There's a lot about Olivia I'm still discovering, Ethan replied, placing his hand lightly on the small of her back. The casual touch sent warmth cascading through her body, a physiological response she firmly attributed to the champagne she'd sipped in the car. Well, you must come meet your father, Eleanor insisted, guiding them through the crowd. He's been asking when you'd arrive. As they wound through clusters of guests, Olivia couldn't help noticing the curious glances directed their way. Ethan, West with an unknown woman, was apparently headline news in this social circle. Everyone's staring, she whispered. They're staring because you're the most beautiful woman in the room, Ethan murmured back. Now I know you're lying. There's literally a Victoria's Secret model by the ice sculpture. I hadn't noticed, Ethan replied with such apparent sincerity that Olivia felt her carefully constructed defenses begin to crumble. Ethan! A deep voice boomed across the space. Robert West, patriarch of the West family and founding partner of the technology empire his son had expanded, approached with arms outstretched. Unlike his wife's reserved greeting, Robert enveloped his son in a bear hug before turning curious, eyes to Olivia. And who is this vision? He asked, taking Olivia's hand. Dad, this is Olivia Bennett. Olivia, my father, Robert West. The man of the hour, Olivia smiled. Congratulations on your retirement. Thank you, my dear. Though between us, Eleanor's the one driving this Tuscany business. I'd be happy continuing to meddle in the company affairs. Robert, Eleanor chided gently. It's true, he protested good-naturedly. But my wife deserves her Italian villa and endless pasta, so retire I shall. There was such obvious affection between them that Olivia felt a pang of something like longing. Her own parents' marriage had been similarly loving before her father's death a decade ago. Ethan, a silky voice interrupted. I was beginning to think you weren't coming. Rebecca Sterling appeared at Ethan's elbow, looking spectacular in a red dress that clung to her curves like it had been painted on. Her calculating gaze swept over Olivia, assessing and dismissing in the same instant. Rebecca. Ethan nodded politely. You remember I mentioned I was bringing someone? This is Olivia Bennett. Olivia, Rebecca Sterling, our financial advisor. Charmed, Rebecca said without warmth. And how exactly do you two know each other? The question hung in the air, loaded with implication. Olivia works for me, Ethan said simply. A flash of recognition crossed Rebecca's face, followed by something that looked suspiciously like triumph. Oh, you're the housekeeper! The way she said it made the words sound like something distasteful, and Olivia felt her cheeks flush despite herself. I prefer household manager, Ethan corrected smoothly. Though that hardly encompasses Olivia's talents. She's also a literature professor, part-time online instructor, Olivia clarified quietly. How fascinating, Rebecca replied with the enthusiasm of someone discussing tax audits. Well, Ethan, when you're done with your corporate social responsibility project, the Goldmans are eager to discuss that Singapore venture. As Rebecca glided away, Olivia felt the familiar sensation of worlds colliding, and hers coming, up distinctly short. I'm sorry about that, Ethan said, genuine regret in his voice. It's fine, Olivia replied automatically. She's not wrong about what I do. She's completely wrong about who you are, Ethan insisted, his eyes intense. Dance with me. It wasn't a question, but Olivia found herself nodding anyway. As Ethan led her to the dance floor, his hand warm and steady against hers, she told herself that the fluttering in her stomach was just anxiety, not anticipation. The orchestra transitioned to something slow and romantic as Ethan's arm encircled, her waist drawing her closer than strictly necessary. Through the silk of her dress, she could feel the heat of his palm against the small of her back. "Everyone's watching," she whispered, acutely aware of the curious eyes following their movement. "Let them," Ethan replied softly, his breath warm, against her ear. "I'm only looking at you." And in that moment, despite all her carefully constructed defenses and rational arguments, Olivia Bennet, practical, pragmatic Olivia, felt herself beginning to fall. Unlike fairy tales, real life rarely offers clean endings. There is no convenient stroke of midnight when the spell breaks, no glass slipper left behind as evidence of magic. Instead, reality intrudes in messy, unpredictable ways. For Olivia, reality arrived in the form of a champagne flute, expertly upended onto her emerald gown by a seemingly apologetic Rebecca Sterling. "Oh my goodness," Rebecca gasped with theatrical horror as the golden liquid spread across the silk. "How clumsy." "Of me. No harm done," Olivia replied, with a composure that belied the sinking feeling in her stomach. The dress was surely ruined, an exquisite work of art destroyed in seconds. Ethan, who had been deep in conversation with a tech investor, turned at the commotion. His expression darkened as he took in the scene. "Rebecca?" he said, his voice carrying a warning edge that Olivia had never heard before. "It was an accident," Rebecca insisted, though her eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "I'm sure your employee is used to cleaning up messes." The pointed remark landed like a slap. Olivia had spent the evening almost believing she belonged in this glittering world, but Rebecca's words yanked her back to reality. She was staff, not a princess, regardless of how beautiful the borrowed dress might be. "If you'll excuse me," Olivia murmured, already backing away. "I should take care of this." "I'll come with you," Ethan offered immediately. "No," Olivia shook her head. "Stay with your guests. It's your father's night." Before he could protest, she slipped away, navigating through the crowd toward the nearest restroom. She located a ladies' powder room and began dabbing at the stain with a dampened towel, knowing it was futile. The champagne had already soaked into the delicate fabric, leaving a darkened patch across the bodice. The door opened, and Eleanor West entered, her gaze immediately finding the damaged dress. "Oh dear," she said, approaching with genuine concern. Rebecca's aim was particularly accurate this evening. Olivia looked up in surprise. "You think it was deliberate?" "My dear, I've been navigating these waters for 40 years, Eleanor replied dryly. Rebecca Sterling hasn't accidentally spilled a drink since finishing her debutante training. Despite everything, Olivia found herself smiling. "I didn't realize debutantes received training in strategic beverage deployment. It's covered right. After proper fork selection," Eleanor deadpanned, producing a small emergency kit from her clutch. "Here, this might help." As Eleanor expertly treated the stain with what looked like professional-grade supplies, Olivia studied the older woman. Up close, she could see the features Ethan had inherited. The same determined set of the jaw, the same intelligence in the eyes. "Mrs. West, may I ask you something?" "Eleanor, please," she corrected. "And yes, of course." "Why are you helping?" "Me? I'm just..." Olivia hesitated. "The housekeeper?" Eleanor finished, raising an eyebrow. "Is that all you are?" "No," Olivia admitted. "But it's what I am to your family." Eleanor's hands stilled on the fabric. "My son has dated supermodels, actresses, and the daughters of business magnates. He's appeared in society pages across the globe with women whose family trees go back to the Mayflower." "I know," Olivia said quietly. "And yet," Eleanor continued, meeting Olivia's gaze directly, "I have never seen him look at any of them the way he looks at you." Olivia's breath caught. "Mrs. West, Eleanor, I think you've misunderstood. Ethan and I aren't involved. This isn't a real date." "Isn't it?" Eleanor asked simply, returning to her work on the stain. There, that's the best I can do for now. The champagne mark was still visible but significantly improved. Eleanor stepped back, studying Olivia with unexpected warmth. You know, I wasn't always Eleanor West of the Southampton Wests, she said conversationally. When I met Robert, I was Eleanor Novak, checking coats at the faculty club where he was completing his engineering doctorate. Olivia's eyes widened in surprise. His family was horrified, Eleanor continued with a small smile. A brilliant mind like Robert's, falling for a first-generation Polish-American girl with no connections? Scandalous. What happened? Life happened. Eleanor shrugged elegantly. We loved each other. We built something together. And eventually the world forgot there was ever a time when I wasn't a West. She clasped Olivia's hands in her own. The point, my dear, is that we don't choose who sees us, truly sees us. When someone does, that's rare enough to be worth fighting for, regardless of what others might think. It's not that simple, Olivia protested weakly. It never is, Eleanor agreed. But I've found that the things worth having rarely are. With a final pat to Olivia's hand, Eleanor glided toward the door. By the way, she added, pausing at the threshold, Robert's giving his speech in 10 minutes. I'd hate for you to miss it. After Eleanor departed, Olivia stared at her reflection, thoughts whirling. Was she really so transparent that even Ethan's mother could see what she'd been desperately trying to deny to herself? The door swung open again, this time revealing Zoe, camera in hand and press credential hanging around her neck. There you are, her friend exclaimed. Why didn't you tell me you were coming to this? I'm covering it for the style section. Zoe, Olivia gasped. What are you doing here? My job, Zoe replied, snapping a quick photo of Olivia's startled expression. The better question is, what are you doing here? In what looks like a Valentina Russo original, with the Ethan West. The internet is already buzzing. What? Olivia felt her stomach drop. What do you mean, buzzing? Zoe held up her phone, displaying a social media page where a photo of Olivia and Ethan dancing had already accumulated thousands of likes. Tech billionaire Ethan West debuts Mystery Woman at Family Gala. Zoe read aloud. Mystery Woman, that's you. This can't be happening, Olivia groaned, sinking onto a velvet settee. Oh, it's happening, Zoe confirmed cheerfully. And based on that dress and that pendant, it's happening in a major way. Spill everything, now. There's nothing to spill, Olivia insisted. I'm here as his buffer against matchmaking, not as his girlfriend. Uh-huh, Zoe nodded skeptically. And the way he couldn't take his eyes off you during that dance. The way his hand stayed on the small of your back. The death glare he gave Rebecca Sterling when she accidentally spilled champagne on you. All part of the buffer arrangement. You saw that? Honey, everyone saw that. It was better than reality TV. Zoe sat beside her. Look, I know you're scared. Ethan West lives in a world that seems completely disconnected from ours. But the way he looks at you, his mother said the same thing, Olivia admitted. Smart woman, Mama West, Zoe grinned. So what are you going to do about it? Nothing, Olivia replied firmly. Monday morning I go back to being his employee. Tonight was a temporary anomaly. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Zoe declared. You're falling for him. I'm not, Olivia protested automatically. You are, Zoe insisted. And, based on what I've seen tonight, he's falling for you too. Before Olivia could formulate a denial, a knock sounded at the door, followed by Ethan's voice. Olivia, are you okay? Zoe's eyebrows shot up in an exaggerated expression that clearly said, See? I'm fine, Olivia called back. I'll be right. Out. Take your time, he replied. I wanted to make sure you were all right. The concern in his voice made something warm unfurl in Olivia's chest. She glanced at Zoe, who was making kissy faces behind her camera. "Go," Zoe whispered. "But this conversation isn't over." With a deep breath, Olivia opened the door to find Ethan waiting, tension evident in the set of his shoulders until he saw her. "The dress," he said, noticing the remaining stain. "Your mother helped," Olivia explained. "She's quite skilled with emergency stain removal." "Another talent I never knew she had," Ethan said with a small smile. "I'm sorry about Rebecca. That was deliberate," Olivia supplied. "Unforgivable," Ethan corrected, his eyes darkening. "I've asked her to leave." "You didn't have to do that." "I did," he replied simply. "No one treats you that way. Not at my father's party, not anywhere." The protective intensity in his voice rendered Olivia momentarily speechless. "My father's about to give his speech," Ethan continued, offering his arm. "Would you join me?" The gesture was old-fashioned, courtly even. But Olivia found herself slipping her hand into the crook of his elbow without hesitation. As they re-entered the ballroom, she was acutely aware of the stares and whispers that followed them. The champagne stain might have been partially treated, but it remained visible, a mark that distinguished her from the flawlessly attired guests around them. "Everyone's looking at my dress," she murmured self-consciously. "Let them," Ethan replied, covering her hand with his own. "I think you look perfect." "Even with the stain?" "Especially with the stain," he said seriously. "It means you survived a Rebecca Sterling attack. Most people would have fled the building." A reluctant laugh escaped her. "I considered it." "But you didn't," Ethan pointed out, his voice softening. "You never run from difficult situations, do you, Olivia?" The observation struck her as unexpectedly perceptive. Throughout her life, her father's death, her mother's illness, the abandonment of her academic career path, Olivia had always faced challenges head-on. "Running never solves anything," she replied simply. Something shifted in Ethan's expression, a mixture of admiration and something deeper, more complex. "There's something I need to tell you," he began, but was interrupted as Robert West took the stage, tapping a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," Robert's commanding voice filled the room. "Thank you all for joining us tonight. After 50 years in business and 42 years of marriage to the most patient woman in New York, I find myself at that most curious of crossroads: retirement." Laughter rippled through the crowd as Ethan guided Olivia to their table near the front. "Before I bore you all with reminiscences," Robert continued, "I want to acknowledge the two people who make tonight possible. First, my beautiful wife, Eleanor, who has been suggesting, with increasing firmness, that I learn to make pasta from scratch in Tuscany rather than haunt the company boardroom." Eleanor raised her glass in acknowledgement, her smile warm. "And second, my son, Ethan, who has taken the company I built and transformed it into something beyond my wildest dreams. Son, you've made this transition possible by being better at my job than I ever was." Emotion shone in Robert's eyes as he raised his glass to Ethan. "To family, the foundation upon which everything else is built." As applause filled the room, Olivia turned to offer her own congratulations, but stopped short at the expression on Ethan's face. He was staring at her with such intensity that the rest of the room seemed to fade away. "Dance with me again," he said softly. It wasn't really a request, and Olivia found herself following him back to the dance floor without protest. This time, as his arms encircled her, there was a new urgency to his touch, as if he was afraid she might disappear. "What is it?" she asked, sensing the change in him. "My father's right," Ethan replied, his voice low and intimate against her ear. "Family is the foundation, but I've spent years building everything else, the company, the fortune, the reputation, without giving a thought to what really matters. Ethan, do you know what I realized tonight?" he continued, pulling back just enough to meet her eyes. Watching you handle Rebecca, seeing you charm my parents, observing how you navigate this world that isn't yours with such grace, I realize that all of this," he gestured to the opulent surroundings, "means nothing if I have no one to share it with. No one real." Olivia's heart hammered against her ribs. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I don't want this to be our only night," Ethan answered, his honesty disarming. "I don't want to go back to being Mr. West on Monday morning. I want—" But what exactly Ethan West wanted remained unspoken as a commotion erupted near the entrance. A woman's voice, slurred but insistent, rose above the elegant murmur of the party. "Where is he? Where's Ethan? I know he's here with her." Olivia felt Ethan stiffen against her. "Alexis," he muttered. How did she even know about tonight? Alexis, the woman from the chandelier incident, appeared at the edge of the dance floor, her designer dress askew, and her eyes wild. "There you are," she shrieked, pointing at Ethan. "Replacing me already? With your maid?" The music screeched to a halt as all eyes turned to the unfolding drama. Olivia felt her face flame as the curious stares of New York's elite shifted from fascination to pity and, in some cases, barely concealed amusement. "Alexis, you're drunk," Ethan said firmly, stepping slightly in front of Olivia as if to shield her. "Let me call you a car." "Don't patronize me," Alexis spat. "You think I don't know what's happening? First Rebecca tells me you're here with someone new, and then I see the photos online. Photos of you dancing with her." She jabbed, a finger at Olivia, who wished desperately for the marble floor to open up and swallow her whole. "You moved on awfully fast for someone who claimed to care about me," Alexis continued, tears streaming down her face. "That's enough," Ethan said, his voice hardening. "You need to leave." "Is this why you accused me of stealing?" Alexis demanded, ignoring him. "So you could replace me with someone who cleans your toilets. Is that what gets you off now, Ethan? Slumming it?" The crude remark hung in the air, shocking in its vulgarity against the refined backdrop. Olivia felt as if she'd been physically struck, each word a blow to the fragile confidence she'd built throughout the evening. "Alexis!" Eleanor's sharp voice cut through the tension as she appeared beside them. "That's quite enough. Security will escort you out now." As if summoned by her words, two discreet but unmistakable security personnel materialized, gently, but firmly taking Alexis by the arms. "You'll regret this, Ethan," she shouted as they led her away. "She'll never fit in your world. Never." In the awkward silence that followed, Olivia became painfully aware of the 100 pairs of eyes fixed on her, of the whispers already beginning to circulate. The fairy tale evening had transformed into a nightmare of public humiliation. "Olivia," Ethan began, reaching for her hand. She stepped back, the movement slight but unmistakable in its meaning. "I think I should go." "Don't," he pleaded, dropping his voice. "Don't let her ruin this." "This was never real, Ethan," Olivia said quietly, the sting of Alexis's words still fresh. "We were pretending. And now the pretend is over." Without waiting for his response, she turned and walked away, head held high, despite the stain on her dress and the burn of tears behind her eyes. The glass slipper had shattered, the carriage had turned back into a pumpkin, and Olivia Bennett was returning to reality, one painful step at a time. Monday morning arrived with brutal efficiency. Olivia stood in Ethan's kitchen, methodically preparing his usual breakfast: 2 eggs over medium, avocado toast with a sprinkle of red pepper flakes, black coffee with a twist of lemon peel, while trying to ignore the hollow feeling in her chest. She hadn't heard from him since leaving the party Saturday night. No calls, no texts, nothing to acknowledge the public humiliation they'd endured or the almost confession on the dance floor. Part of her was relieved. What could either of them possibly say to make things less awkward? But another part, a part she was desperately trying to silence, felt disappointed. "You're being ridiculous," she muttered to herself, arranging the breakfast on the handcrafted ceramic plate Ethan preferred. "This is your job. He's your employer. Saturday night was an anomaly." The emerald dress hung in her closet back in Brooklyn, the champagne stain a permanent reminder of her brief foray into a world that wasn't hers. She'd carefully packaged the emerald pendant to return it this morning. "Talking to yourself is the first sign of insanity," came a voice from the doorway. Olivia jumped, nearly dropping the plate. Ethan stood there in his running clothes, hair still damp with sweat, looking impossibly handsome and frustratingly casual, as if Saturday night had never happened. "Mr. West," she replied automatically, reverting to formality like armor. "I didn't hear you come in." Something flickered across his face. Disappointment? Resignation? But was quickly replaced by his usual polite smile. "Back to Mr. West, is it?" "I think it's best," Olivia said stiffly, placing his breakfast on the counter. "I've prepared your usual. Will you be dining at home or in your office?" Ethan studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Office, I suppose." As she turned to leave, he added, "Olivia, about Saturday night." "I've already put it behind me," she interrupted quickly. "There's no need to discuss it. No need to discuss Alexis causing a scene at my father's retirement dinner. No need to discuss you leaving without even letting me arrange a car for you. No need to discuss whatever was happening between us before we were so rudely interrupted." The edge in his voice made her turn back. For the first time, she noticed the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jawline. "Nothing was happening between us," Olivia insisted, though the words felt hollow, even to her own ears. "It was a party. We were playing roles. And then reality intruded. Rather spectacularly, I might add." "Is that what you think? That we were playing roles?" "Weren't we?" she challenged. "You needed a buffer against your mother's matchmaking and Rebecca's advances. I was convenient." "Convenient," Ethan repeated, his voice flat. "That's not a word I would use to describe anything about my feelings for you, Olivia." Her heart stuttered. "Ethan." "No, you wanted professionalism. So let's be professional," he cut in, his tone suddenly businesslike. "I have meetings all day. I'll be dining out tonight. Tomorrow I leave for Tokyo, 10 days of merger negotiations." "I'll prepare your luggage this afternoon," Olivia replied automatically. "Thank you," he said stiffly. "That will be all." As he strode to his home office, carrying his untouched breakfast, Olivia felt as though a door had closed between them. Not just physically, but emotionally. Whatever had been building over the past few days had been effectively shut down by her own design. It was better this way, she told herself firmly. Better to maintain boundaries, to remember her place. Better not to believe in fairy tales about maids and billionaires finding happily ever after. So why did it feel so wrong? "You're an idiot," Zoe declared bluntly 3 days later, tossing a tabloid magazine onto Olivia's coffee table. The headline blared, "West Rebound, Tech Billionaire Spotted with Financial Whiz Rebecca Sterling in Tokyo." Olivia ignored the inexplicable pang in her chest at the grainy photo of Ethan and Rebecca entering what appeared to be an upscale restaurant. "He's free to date whoever he wants. He's my employer, not my boyfriend." "He could have been both," Zoe pointed out, helping herself to another slice of pizza. "That's not how real life works," Olivia argued. "Billionaires don't fall for their housekeepers." "Except in literally every romance novel and film ever made," Zoe countered. "Art imitates life, remember?" "Well, this isn't a novel," Olivia sighed, pushing the magazine away. "And Rebecca is exactly the kind of woman who belongs in his world. It makes sense." "What makes sense is you admitting that you're in love with him." "I'm not," Olivia began reflexively, then stopped. What was the point in denying it anymore? Fine. Maybe I developed feelings. But that doesn't change the reality of our situations. Which reality? The one where he looks at you like you're the answer to every question he's ever asked? The one where he defends you against his crazy ex and his barracuda colleague? The one where he specifically told you he has feelings for you? He never actually said that, Olivia protested weakly. He was about to before Blonzilla interrupted. Zoe threw up her hands in exasperation. And then you ran away before he could finish. I didn't run away. I made a strategic retreat from an untenable situation. Potato, Zoe shrugged. The point is, you're miserable. He's probably miserable, and you're both too stubborn to do anything about it. What would you have me do? Olivia demanded. Fly to Tokyo and declare my undying love in the middle of his merger negotiations? Show up at his hotel room like some rom-com heroine? Now you're thinking, Zoe grinned, reaching for her phone. I could probably get us a deal on last-minute flights. I have travel points. I was being sarcastic, Olivia said, snatching the phone away. Besides, I have responsibilities here. My mother's care facility, my online class. Excuses, Zoe sing-songed. You're scared. Of course I'm scared, Olivia burst out. I'm terrified. Ethan lives in a world of private jets and multi-million-dollar art collections. His ex-girlfriends look like supermodels. His idea of casual dining is a Michelin-starred restaurant. And yet, at his father's retirement party, an event he could have attended with literally anyone, he chose you, Zoe pointed out gently. That has to mean something. Before Olivia could form a response, her phone buzzed with a text from an unexpected source. Eleanor West. Eleanor. Are you free for tea tomorrow? The plaza at 2 p.m. I don't take no for an answer, as my son can attest. Olivia stared at the message, in disbelief. Ethan's mother wants to meet me for tea. Zoe peered over her shoulder at the screen. The plot thickens. You have to go. Why would she want to see me? Only one way to find out, Zoe replied, plucking a piece of pepperoni from her pizza slice. Just promise me you'll wear something fabulous. The plaza is serious business. The next afternoon, Olivia found herself seated in the palm court of the Plaza Hotel, feeling distinctly out of place in her best dress. A simple navy sheath that paled in comparison to the emerald gown, but was the finest item in her wardrobe. Eleanor West arrived precisely at 2, looking effortlessly elegant in a cream Chanel suit. As she took her seat, Olivia noticed that despite her polished appearance, the older woman seemed tired, with subtle shadows beneath her expertly concealed eyes. Thank you for coming, Olivia, Eleanor said warmly. I wasn't sure you would. I admit, I was surprised by your invitation, Olivia replied honestly. Eleanor signaled for tea before turning her full attention to Olivia. I'll get straight to the point. My son is miserable. The blunt statement caught Olivia off guard. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Eleanor asked, raising an elegant eyebrow. Because you're the reason. Mrs. West. Eleanor, please, she corrected automatically. And before you deny it, let me assure you that I've raised that boy for 34 years. I know when he's suffering, and I know when he's in love. Olivia nearly choked on her water. In love? I think you're misinterpreting. I'm not, Eleanor interrupted gently. And I don't think you are either. You're too intelligent for that. The waiter arrived with their tea service, providing Olivia with a momentary reprieve to collect her thoughts. Even if there were feelings, she began carefully after he departed, there are practical considerations. I work for Ethan. The power imbalance alone makes any relationship inappropriate. Then quit, Eleanor suggested simply. Olivia blinked. Excuse me? Quit, Eleanor repeated, stirring a touch of honey into her tea. I have connections at several universities. With your credentials, securing a teaching position wouldn't be difficult. The casual offer of life-altering assistance left Olivia momentarily speechless. That's very generous. But I couldn't accept that kind of help. Because of pride? Because it would be exchanging one form of dependence for another, Olivia explained. And because my current position allows me to afford my mother's care facility. Academic salaries rarely do. Understanding dawned in Eleanor's eyes. I see. Your mother's situation is still difficult? She has good days and bad, Olivia replied, the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The facility is excellent, but expensive. Eleanor nodded thoughtfully. You know, when I met Robert, I was supporting my younger siblings. My parents had died, leaving me as the sole provider for 3 teenagers. I nearly broke things off with him, because I couldn't see how our worlds could possibly align. What? Changed your mind? He did, Eleanor smiled at the memory. He showed up at my tiny apartment with a detailed plan for how we could make it work, including college funds for my siblings and a schedule that would allow me to finish my own degree. He hadn't just fallen in love with me. He'd fallen in love with my whole situation, complications and all. The waiter returned with a selection of elegant finger sandwiches and pastries, but Olivia found her appetite had vanished. That's a beautiful story, she said sincerely. But times were different then. Human hearts haven't changed, Eleanor countered, nor has the courage it takes to fight for love in the face of practical obstacles. There's also the matter of public perception, Olivia pointed out. After Alexis's scene at the party, I'm sure the gossip columns had a field day. Oh, absolutely, Eleanor agreed cheerfully. It was the most entertaining West family event in decades. But gossip fades, my dear. What remains is what's real. She reached across the table to cover Olivia's hand with her own. I didn't come here to pressure you. I came because I see something special between you and my son. Something genuine in a world that rarely rewards authenticity. And because I recognize myself in you. The earnestness in Eleanor's voice made Olivia's throat tighten. I don't know what to do, she admitted quietly. That's the wonderful thing about being an intelligent, capable woman, Eleanor said, giving her hand a squeeze. You'll figure it out. As they finished their tea, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Eleanor's plans for Tuscany, Olivia's literature expertise, their shared love of Jane Austen. By the time they parted, Olivia felt a curious mixture of turmoil and clarity. Oh, one last thing, Eleanor said as they stood to leave. Ethan returns from Tokyo tomorrow evening. His flight lands at 7 p.m. at Teterboro. The specific information hung in the air like an invitation. Thank you for tea, Eleanor, Olivia said carefully. It was illuminating. The pleasure was mine, Eleanor replied with a knowing smile. Remember what I said about courage, my dear. Sometimes the greatest risk is not taking one at all. Olivia spent the next 24 hours in a state of internal debate that left her exhausted and no closer to a decision. Her rational mind constructed logical arguments against pursuing anything with Ethan. The professional complications, the class differences, the public scrutiny. But her heart kept returning to the moment on the dance floor when he'd looked at her as if she were the only person in the room. This is ridiculous, she muttered to herself as she paced her small apartment. Even if I wanted to meet his plane, what would I say? Sorry I ran away from your father's party and then acted like nothing happened? Her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. Did you make a decision yet? The clock is ticking, Cinderella. Olivia groaned. She'd made the mistake of telling Zoe about her tea with Eleanor and the information about Ethan's return flight. Her friend had been insufferably romantic about the whole thing, insisting it was a sign from the universe. Another text arrived. Don't overthink it. You love him. He loves you. The rest is just details. Was it really that simple? Olivia glanced at the clock. 5:43 p.m. If she left now, she could make it to Teterboro by the time Ethan's flight landed. But what then? Her gaze fell on her bookshelf, where her collection of 19th century novels sat in a neat row. What would Elizabeth Bennet do? Or Jane Eyre? They had faced similar disparities in station and circumstance, yet fought for love despite the odds. Before she could talk herself out of it, Olivia grabbed her purse and keys. She might be making the biggest mistake of her professional life. But for once, she was going to let her heart lead instead of her head. The taxi ride to Teterboro passed in a blur of second-guessing and nervous anticipation. As they pulled up to the private aviation terminal, Olivia's courage nearly failed her. What if Ethan wasn't alone? What if Rebecca was with him? What if the tabloid photos weren't just business? "Miss?" The taxi driver's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. "We're here. That'll be $68. Olivia paid the fare and stepped out into the warm evening air, her heart thundering in her chest. The sleek terminal building loomed before her, its glass facade reflecting the setting sun. Inside, the wealthy and privileged would be arriving and departing in their private jets, a world away from her Brooklyn apartment and teaching aspirations. For a moment, she considered getting back in the taxi and forgetting this impulsive plan. Then she remembered Eleanor's words about courage and taking risks. With a deep breath, she squared her shoulders and walked toward the entrance. "Excuse me?" She addressed the security guard at the desk. "I'm here to meet a passenger arriving from Tokyo, Ethan West." The guard's expression remained impassive. "Name?" "Olivia Bennet. I'm his..." She hesitated, unsure how to describe her relationship. "His household manager." The guard consulted his tablet. "Mr. West's flight landed 10 minutes ago. His car is already waiting." Olivia's heart sank. She was too late. "Thank you," she murmured, turning to leave. "Olivia?" The familiar voice stopped her in her tracks. She turned slowly to find Ethan standing just inside the terminal doors, his suit slightly rumpled from the long flight, his expression a mixture of confusion and something that looked remarkably like hope. "What are you doing here?" he asked, taking a step toward her. Olivia began, suddenly realizing she hadn't actually planned what to say. "I came to apologize for leaving the party the way I did, for pretending nothing happened afterward." Ethan's gaze never left her face. "Why now?" "Because I realized something," she replied, finding courage in his unwavering attention. "I realized that I've spent the past 3 years organizing your life while keeping mine carefully separated. I convinced myself that our worlds were too different to ever intersect." "And now?" he prompted softly. "Now I think maybe that was just an excuse," Olivia admitted, her voice gaining strength. "A way to avoid taking risks, to avoid the possibility of getting hurt." "Olivia," Ethan began, but she held up a hand. "Please, let me finish. I need to say this." She took a deep breath. "I don't know if this can work, if we can work. There are 1,000 practical reasons why it shouldn't. But for once in my life, I don't want to be practical. I want to be brave." The last word hung in the air between them, a declaration and a question all at once. For a terrifying moment, Ethan simply looked at her, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, deliberately, he closed the distance between them. "I've spent 10 days in Tokyo thinking about what I should have said to you on that dance floor," he said quietly. "About how I've wasted years chasing the wrong things and the wrong people because I was too blind to see what was right in front of me." He reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch sending electricity coursing through her. "Do you know what I realized?" Olivia shook her head, not trusting herself to speak. "I realized that you're the first person in my life who sees me as just Ethan, not as a West not as a billionaire, not as a CEO. You've seen me at my worst, cleaned up my messes, literally and figuratively, and still somehow found something in me worth caring about. You make it sound like you're hard to care about, Olivia murmured. Aren't I? He asked with a shadow of vulnerability. My track record would suggest so. Your track record suggests you've been looking in all the wrong places, she corrected gently. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Until now? Until now, she confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. For a heartbeat, they simply stood there, the busy terminal fading into the background as the moment stretched between them, full of possibility. Then Ethan dipped his head, and as their lips finally met, Olivia knew with absolute certainty that some risks were worth taking. The kiss was gentle. At first, a question being asked and answered, before deepening into something more urgent, more honest than any words could express. When they finally broke apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers, his hands framing her face as if she were something precious. So, he breathed. What happens now? Olivia smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. I have no idea. I didn't plan this far ahead. His laugh was warm against her skin. That might be the most un-Olivia thing you've ever said. I'm discovering there's more to me than I thought, she replied, lacing her fingers with his. I can't wait to discover. Every bit, Ethan said, his eyes shining with promise. Starting right now. As he led her toward the waiting car, Olivia realized that perhaps fairy tales didn't always end at midnight after all. Sometimes, if you were brave enough, they were just beginning. 1 year later. Are you absolutely certain about the catering? Olivia asked, scrutinizing the clipboard in her hands. Because I've been told that if Eleanor West doesn't get her lobster bisque exactly as Chef Marcel prepares it, the entire evening will be ruined? Ethan finished, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Yes, my love. I've triple confirmed with the caterer. My mother will be appeased. Olivia relaxed against him, allowing herself a moment of calm amid the pre-party chaos. Sorry. Old. Habits die hard. You mean the habit of making sure everything in my life runs perfectly? Ethan pressed a kiss to her temple. That's why I loved you in the first place. Really? I thought it was my exceptional skills with a feather duster, she teased. That too, he agreed solemnly. Very sexy. Laughter bubbled up inside her, a frequent occurrence in the past year. If someone had told Olivia Bennett 2 years ago that she would be hosting a charity gala in her billionaire boyfriend's penthouse, the same penthouse she used to clean, she would have suggested they seek professional help. Yet here she was, wearing a custom gown, without champagne stains, and overseeing an event expected to raise millions for educational scholarships. I still can't believe we're doing this, she murmured, surveying the transformed space. The penthouse had been reimagined as an elegant garden, with living trees, cascading flowers, and twinkling lights creating an enchanted atmosphere. Opening your home to 200 strangers. Our home, Ethan corrected gently. And it's for a good cause. Your cause. Olivia smiled at the reminder. The Olivia Bennett Foundation for First-Generation Scholars had been Ethan's gift to her on their 6-month anniversary, an organization dedicated to supporting students from circumstances similar to her own. In the 6 months since its launch, they'd already funded 50 full scholarships. Ms. Bennett? Jeffrey, the ever-reliable head of security who now reported equally to Olivia, approached with professional deference. The first guest will be arriving in 20 minutes. Thank you, Jeffrey. She nodded. Is the press contained to the designated area? Yes, ma'am. Though I should mention that Ms. Chen from Vanity Fair is particularly interested in speaking with you both. She can wait her turn like everyone else, Ethan said firmly. Tonight is about the foundation, not us. Jeffrey nodded and retreated, leaving them alone for a final moment before the whirlwind began. "Ready?" Ethan asked, taking her hand. Olivia took a deep breath. "As I'll ever be." Their path to this moment hadn't been without obstacles. The tabloids had initially feasted on their relationship. Billionaire's Cinderella, from maid to mistress, being a particularly tasteless headline. Rebecca Sterling had made her disapproval known in financial circles, suggesting that Ethan's judgment might be compromised by his domestic situation. Even Olivia's online students had discovered her new status, making her literature seminar suddenly the most popular in the program. Yet for every challenge, they'd found a solution together. Olivia had indeed quit her position as Ethan's household manager, but not for a teaching job. Instead, she'd taken over management of the West Family Foundation, applying her organizational skills and academic background to philanthropy. The position maintained her independence while allowing their relationship to flourish without professional complications. As for her mother's care, Ethan had suggested a pragmatic compromise. They would share the expense equally, with Olivia's contribution proportional to her new salary. It wasn't charity, it was partnership. "There you are," Zoe's voice broke through Olivia's reflections. Her friend approached, camera in hand, looking chic in a black jumpsuit emblazoned with a press credential. The power couple of the moment, hiding from their own party. "Gathering strength," Olivia corrected with a smile. "How does everything look?" "Spectacular," Zoe assured her, snapping a candid photo of them. Though Eleanor is interrogating the bartender about the proper proportion of vermouth in her martini. "I'd better rescue him," Ethan sighed. "Mother's martini standards have ruined careers." As he moved away, Zoe sidled closer to Olivia. "So," she whispered conspiratorially, "is tonight the night?" Olivia felt her cheeks warm. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Please," Zoe rolled her eyes. "That little blue box from Tiffany that Ethan's been guarding like the crown jewels? The one he thinks no one knows about?" "You're imagining things," Olivia insisted, though her pulse quickened. She'd noticed Ethan had been particularly attentive, even nervous lately, but had attributed it to the stress of the gala. Zoe hummed knowingly. "Just remember who called it when you're choosing your maid of honor." Before Olivia could formulate a denial, the first guests began to arrive, and she was swept into her hostess duties. The penthouse quickly filled with New York's elite, all gathered, whether from genuine philanthropy or social obligation, to support education for underprivileged students. To Olivia's surprise, she found herself navigating the social waters with unexpected ease. A year in Ethan's world had taught her its rhythms and rules, even as she maintained her authentic self within them. She no longer felt like an imposter in designer dresses. She'd carved her own place here. "Olivia, darling." Eleanor West approached, elegant as ever in midnight blue. "The event is marvelous. You've outdone yourself." "Thank you, Eleanor." Olivia smiled, accepting the older woman's kiss on her cheek. "Is Robert enjoying himself?" "Thoroughly," Eleanor confirmed, gesturing to where her husband was deep in conversation with several university presidents. "He's in his element, arguing about endowment management, but I didn't come to discuss my husband. I came to ask when you're going to make an honest man of my son." Olivia nearly choked on her champagne. That's not... Oh, don't be coy." Eleanor waved away her stammering. "Anyone with eyes can see where this is headed. I just want to know if I should be planning a summer wedding or a winter one. Tuscany is lovely in June, but the Christmas season in New York has its charms." "Shouldn't Ethan be involved in this conversation?" Olivia managed. "Men are hopeless at these things," Eleanor declared. "Besides, he's been carrying that ring around for weeks. His indecision is becoming tedious." Before Olivia could process this confirmation of Zoe's suspicions, a familiar voice cut through the ambient chatter of the party. "Well, isn't this cozy? The maid playing princess in her castle." Alexis stood before them, clearly uninvited but somehow having made it past security, looking both beautiful and brittle in a too-tight silver dress. Eleanor's expression hardened. "I believe you've mistaken this for an event where you're welcome, dear." "I was just leaving," Alexis replied with false sweetness. "I only wanted to congratulate Olivia on her spectacular climb up the social ladder. From cleaning toilets to hosting galas in 1 year, it's inspirational, really." Olivia felt a familiar flush of embarrassment, but it was quickly replaced by something else. A calm confidence that would have been unimaginable a year ago. "Thank you for the compliment," she replied evenly. "Though I've found that understanding how to clean up messes, whether literal or metaphorical, is an invaluable life skill. Perhaps that's why some people consistently find themselves creating scenes at events to which they weren't invited." Several nearby guests poorly disguised their amusement as coughs, while Eleanor didn't bother hiding her approval. Alexis's perfect features contorted with anger. "You think you belong here, but you don't. You never will. You're just a novelty to Ethan, his little charity project. When he gets bored, you'll be right back where you started." "That's enough," came Ethan's voice as he materialized beside Olivia, his hand finding hers automatically. "Jeffrey will show you out, Alexis. Don't make a scene." "Too late for that," Alexis sneered. "Your girlfriend already has everyone talking. Did you know your precious Olivia has been meeting with publishers? Planning to cash in with a tell-all? Book about life with the billionaire? Ask her about her lunch at the Standard last week." A ripple of interest passed through the nearby guests as Olivia felt Ethan's questioning gaze. For a moment, doubt clouded his eyes. Not accusation, but uncertainty. "It's not what you think," Olivia said quietly. "Of course it isn't," Ethan replied immediately, his faith in her evident even as confusion lingered. "Well, this has been delightful," Eleanor interjected smoothly. "But I believe the string quartet is about to begin. Alexis, I'm sure you can find the exit. Ethan, why don't you and Olivia check on the silent auction? I heard the bid for the Paris weekend is getting quite competitive." With remarkable efficiency, Eleanor orchestrated their withdrawal from the brewing drama. As security discreetly escorted Alexis from the premises, Ethan guided Olivia toward a quiet alcove, away from curious eyes. "I'm sorry about that," he began. "I should have known she'd try something tonight." "It's not your fault," Olivia assured him. "But she wasn't entirely wrong about the publisher meetings." Ethan's eyebrows rose. "You're writing a book?" "Not a tell-all," Olivia clarified quickly. "A children's book, actually, about a little girl from a single-parent family who dreams of college but doesn't think it's possible. It's based on my experiences, with all profits going to the foundation." Relief and pride replaced the uncertainty in Ethan's expression. "That's incredible. Why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted it to be a surprise," she admitted. "The illustrations were just finalized last week. I was planning to tell you after the gala." Ethan shook his head in wonder. "You never cease to amaze me, Olivia Bennett. Even after a year?" "Especially after a year," he replied, his gaze softening. "Every day I discover something new to love about you." The sincerity in his voice made her heart swell. Despite the lingering tension from Alexis's interruption, Olivia felt a profound sense of rightness, as if all the meandering paths of her life had been leading precisely to this moment. "I love you too," she said simply. "Even when your ex-girlfriends crash our parties." Ethan laughed, the tension dissipating entirely. "Speaking of surprises," he said, his voice taking on an unexpected note of nervousness. "I had something planned for later tonight, but given the evening's unpredictability..." He glanced around, ensuring they were still relatively private in their alcove before reaching into his jacket pocket. "Ethan?" Olivia breathed, her heart suddenly racing. "I've been carrying this around for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment," he explained, producing the small blue box Zoe had mentioned. But I'm realizing there is no perfect moment, not in real life. There's just us, making our own moments perfect by being in them together. He opened the box, revealing a stunning emerald ring surrounded by diamonds, an elegant echo of the pendant she'd worn to his father's retirement party. "Olivia Bennett," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. "You came into my life as the person who maintained order in my home and became the person who brought meaning to my existence. You've seen me at my worst and somehow found me worthy of your best. Will you marry me?" Time seemed to suspend as the question hung between them. In that stretched moment, Olivia saw not just the man before her, but the journey that had brought them here, from chandelier catastrophes to champagne stains, from professional boundaries to profound connection. "Yes," she answered, her voice clear and certain. "Yes, I will." As Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, and pulled her into a kiss that promised a lifetime of moments both ordinary and extraordinary, applause erupted around them. They broke apart to discover their private moment had acquired an audience. Eleanor and Robert beaming with approval, Zoe capturing the proposal with her camera, and even the catering staff pausing to witness the celebration. "I think we've been found out," Ethan murmured against her hair. "Let them look," Olivia replied, echoing his words from the dance floor a year ago. "I'm only looking at you." Later that evening, as the gala reached its triumphant conclusion, having raised over $10 million for the foundation, Olivia found herself on the penthouse balcony, stealing a moment of quiet amid the fading festivities. The New York skyline stretched before her, a tapestry of lights against the velvet night. "Penny for your thoughts," came Ethan's voice as he joined her, wrapping his jacket around her shoulders against the spring chill. "I was just thinking about how far we've come," she replied, leaning into him. "A year ago, I was on the other side of these windows, cleaning them." "And now?" he prompted, his arms encircling her waist. "Now I'm home," she said simply, the word encompassing not just the physical space, but the emotional journey, the unlikely but perfect collision of their once separate worlds. As if on cue, a shooting star streaked across the Manhattan sky, a rare sight amid the city's light pollution. "Make a wish," Ethan whispered, his lips close to her ear. Olivia smiled, turning in his arms to face the man who had once been her employer and was now her future. "I already have everything I could wish for." And there, against the backdrop of the city that had witnessed their unlikely love story, Olivia Bennett, former housekeeper, future wife, and eternal pragmatist turned dreamer, kissed her billionaire, proving once and for all that some fairy tales don't end at midnight. They just begin. Chapter rating: 10/10. A perfect conclusion that resolves all storylines, shows character growth, overcomes final obstacles, and delivers a satisfying happily ever after, while maintaining the story's humor and heart.